So you might.
I have a habit of recording like 10 minutes in. Thank you all for showing up. So right now we've got 17 online participants and about 20 of us here. This is the June Saguaro Astronomy Club meeting. There's a lot of new faces here. They're probably not new to some of you guys, but they're new to most of us. And I know we have some guests, and I'm tickled to death that you all showed up. I just think of us oldsters as your pseudo grandparents. Okay, great grandparents. Okay, okay. So, Rick, yes.
Hit the continue button on your.
I can't hear you, Rick.
Hit the continue button on your screen.
Continue? Where?
On the image, the Zoom image.
The Zoom
It's
image.
being recorded.
Okay,
Hit the continue button.
I did. It says it's recording.
I still have a window on the middle saying continue.
I'm showing recording.
Oh, okay. That must have been my computer.
You're probably continuing. And I hope you do, for your sake.
Yay.
Yeah. Going to have a couple reports from the board, the other board member. We'll get to that later on, people. Jack, would you like to say anything about our financial situation? Sure.
Taking a minute, Steve.
It'll get taken. It's a recording.
She's gonna rely on the bird, we'll have to take minutes anymore. Wow.
Well, you're a treasurer now.
We have a balance of $3,209.55, $72 cash and a book of stamps. And of $350 for the check came in for the meeting room for the rest of the year, $350 and $90 for mosaic. I guess Tom Austin's wife collected that for the fee, mosaic fee for whatever fee power
Our what thing?
our SAC website.
Oh, okay, okay.
Either that or not the group.
We'll talk with David Douglas about that. If there's a.
And that was the expenses for the month. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
Hey, Tom, can you
Yes, Rick.
repeat the numbers?
Pardon me?
Can you repeat those numbers? I couldn't hear Jack.
Oh, okay.
3209.
3209.
$3,209.55 is balance for June 1st.
Okay.
$350. We had expenses of a $350 check for clubhouse rental for the rest of the year, and $90 for the mosaic SAC website fee, which went to Tom Osmond for his wife, yes.
Does that sound, David, like the fee or something for the website imprimatur?
I have no idea what that, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have no idea what that is. I'll have to talk to him and try and figure it out. I know of no activity money-wise on the website.
Okay, we'll check into it.
It was on the statement, the Chase statement, and there was a notation there. I can send that to whoever it needs to figure out what the hell it was. Do that.
Yeah, if need be, just talk to Tom Mosden's wife about a little more specifics of it, if need be.
Her name was.
Okay. Okey doke. Rick, anything you want to say about the newsletter?
It just came out. Check it out. Got an email for you for the
Thank
link.
you. I saw Mr. Yoder's viewing spreadsheets and his work on the next month's objects du jour, quite encompassing, quite a challenge. Mike, anything you want to say about Facebook?
Well, I've been sending out the meeting notices and through the EVAC Club group, as well as my own personal Facebook posts. And I'm still working on getting the SAC Facebook group set up. It's there. I've uploaded the logo, and I just need to start posting some photos and then start inviting people to join, because Susan's recommendation was to make it private. So that's the way I did it.
Okey doke. For those of you who do Facebook, we do have a Facebook page, and Mike is the one taking over the helm of that. So visit it, post if you need or want, have anything interesting. David Douglas, anything about the website you want to talk about?
No, we're rolling along. It's functional. I got to figure out what the money thing is, but I'll get together with Jack on that and we'll get that figured out. So it's there and working.
Okay, thank you, sir. I guess now, unless someone else has anything about club business, next month's guest speaker will be Mark Johnston, and he'll be talking about the NASA Ambassador Program. You might want to show up for that. And he's also going to be at the North Room with us, one of the telescope and speaker positions. So I'm looking forward to meeting him and talking with him. So it ought to be interesting. I tell you what, Paul.
Yeah, question.
Yes,
Do you think we'll have a SAC outreach this fall?
that's a good question. We have to determine, I guess. Jack, you were the one that used to talk with, was it Peoria or Glendale? The T-Bird Park. Glendale on that. Have they made any indications that they're wanting to?
I haven't checked with them.
Okay,
I don't know if they're back or not.
okay, if you can do that, we see for when it gets cooler this fall. I don't want to go out now. I don't want to leave here tonight. No, sleep on the couch. Anything.
Either April or May, and then we have a fall one in October.
Okay, that'd be doable. Less toxic environment.
But status, I have no idea.
Okay,
Probably are. I would suppose.
now we're just guessing.
By October, you think?
You would hope. Unless Omicron B is rampant. The next version of COVID has come out and it's more virulent. And monkeypox could be monkeypox. Not my circus, not my monkeys. So Paul, you want to talk about the ATM meeting? Let me see if I can pull up your, okay.
Normally, we would have had an ATM meeting this week, but that was under the weather. And so we're having it next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. Yeah.
There we go.
And Richard, pay attention here.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next one.
Yeah,
Why don't you sit here?
oh, all right.
Don't touch my gavel.
Okay, anyway, we've been messing around with a 6-inch f5 mirror just for the heck of it. And I don't even know how to enter.
Go to the next one.
Okay, this was Matt Luteman polishing a 6-inch. And here's some of you guys actually. There's Jack and yeah, Ken. This is part of my shop. Anyway, we've been testing it with an interferometer that I have, only the thing is down right now, so I don't think we're going to be able to do that on Tuesday. There's a problem with the laser. But we're making plans for the fall. Oh, this was the mirror as it stood. It can't read the fine print, but it says it's RMS 1/9. Trail ratio is not so great, and it's a little high. You can see it across here. Red means it's high. But, it's undoubtedly diffraction limited as it is. We might try to make it a little better.
What was your Streel? I can't see the numbers.
Trail ratio? Oh, geez, it's you didn't want to ask it. It's like 0.6, 0.646. Anyway, this is really not meant to be a high powered scope. It's a F5 for nebulae and stuff. So next fall, I think in September, what we will do is make a carbon fiber tube for this thing and maybe make 2 tubes. This is Lynn Blackburn spreading epoxy on carbon fiber, that black stuff there. Underneath it is what's called release fabric to give it a nice, to pull off the back of it when it's done. And this was a sacrificial core. And I know Richard had some problems with this once, from styrofoam, about a 1/2 inch of styrofoam, which I will not do again. But the idea was to build this whole thing and then cut the core out from under it. And you see here, the first layer of carbon is on there. It's underneath that honeycomb. And the honeycomb is to give it a very stiff, give it a lot of strength, because normally carbon fiber or fiberglass is just kind of squishes. That's called pipe strength. And so sewers and so forth have to have this strength, particularly if they're mostly empty. And so I studied up on this a little bit and found out by putting the core in there makes it a whole lot more tighter. And here's vacuum bagging over the top of the top layer of carbon fiber. And you have to do this vacuum bag thing in order to pull it tight against the epoxy. So anyway, that's what a tube looked like when Lynn and I had finished with it. And it's been almost 10 years, I guess. And it's been serving me very well in this astrograph. And I believe that's the last slide.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions for Paul? And by the way, the guys out there in participant land, were you able to see the slides?
Yes.
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 Okay, good. Let's see now. Let's go to. There we go. Okay. Let's go back to screen sharing. Okay. I don't want to ask. Do you know anything about Zoom? Excellent. We're looking for members who know anything about Zoom. I figured you probably had a school year or two of Zoom stuff. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, next up. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Come on up, Chair.
In the back.
Yeah. What you?
Let's see, you gotta.
Just should be double click and then go down to the little.
I've copied it onto the desktop.
Oh, okay. If it's on the desktop, it should be in here, isn't it?
There's a lot of stuff on the desktop, actually.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let's.
PC desktop.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's see if I can screw this up. I need to hop up for just a second so I can see
Okay,
this.
actually, I think if I hit minimize here.
Yeah, if you can minimize and go down to
Okay, and then
desktop.
here. Actually, yeah, let's see if I did it here.
Mike? Mike, you're not sharing your desktop at this point. We can't see the desktop.
Yeah, we're trying to get there.
Yeah, I'll get there in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, let's try one more.
Shades of last week. In most meetings.
This reminds me of Tron, second movie, we watched that. And they got put the operating system online. That's so hilarious.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna maximize.
No,
Okay.
he had a stick, every stick. This is the second movie.
Oh, the second.
Yeah. Oh, the remake. The remake. Oh, it was a lot better.
Okay, Tom, I just need to share this.
Okay,
So,
should be able to double click on it on the screen if it's, when it comes up like that.
so I have it up.
Okay,
It's right here. So I
okay.
just need to share that.
Yeah.
If you are on,
So I can get back to Zoom.
yeah, we need to go, you need to go up to the, I can't see the, don't see the things here.
This is why I studied was
Right.
hate that microprocessor.
Tell me what I'm doing wrong here.
And look where we at now.
Okay.
I'm still trying to, get this in my head, the ALU controlling it. Actually, that part of technology is basically the same. It just doesn't work faster.
Here we go.
And then share. And
Then-
then.
Down to, yep, that should do it.
Okay. Can you guys see a blank page right now?
Yep.
Let's see here.
Looks like
All right, Let me see here.
a slider on the right and a gray screen.
Yeah, I'm hoping it would, okay, we'll just go with this. So, these are just picking people who went out to watch the lunar eclipse. How many people were disappointed? Right? It's the usual Phoenix lunar eclipse overcast night, right? Never fails. I don't know what it is about Phoenix. So, got a few pictures. Most of them really didn't come to fruition. But just kind of go over, show you a few I got. All right, come on. Page down. So I started off, I was going to do a nice sequence as the moon was rising over the horizon, because it's kind of a rare occurrence where you got the eclipse rising. So it's like, oh, this would be a really cool photo. And you can see I got about 4 before the clouds moved in and just wiped everything else out. So I was like, oh, okay, that one didn't work. Then during totality, it was still pretty overcast. Every once in a while, you get a little break in the clouds, right? So this one, there was a little break. I went ahead and shot it. This was a 10-second shot, which is actually an eternity when it comes to the moon, right? The moon is usually way too bright for anything. So it there. And then once we got past totality, as we started exiting the eclipse, right? Now the clouds start to decide to clear. So I started getting a few shots here as it's now exiting totality. So here's just a quick one. It's about a 1/4 second exposure. And here's another one. This was about, I think, 20 minutes later. A little better. It's like, okay, well, we're getting something out of this, right? Okay, and then, so yeah, this is about 10:25. And then I just shot another one right after it, just kind of changing the exposure up a little bit. This one probably a little overexposed, but So this was with my Pentax K1 for the camera, DSLR. And then I was using a 61 millimeter Oppo for the scope. Okay. But because of the clouds, the exposures were all over the board. I mean, you try one, it worked for 1 minute, you tried again, it didn't work. So it was kind of difficult to get through them all. And then at the end, I was trying to get the sequence just a little off. Clouds just did not want to cooperate. Tried. Now I did have a couple of interesting shots here that the clouds had a certain effect on. They turned out really good. I was really surprised as I was going through the film, and it's like, hey, those turned out good. Whoops, I think I went the wrong way, didn't I? Oh, sorry. Down there. So I had some shots here. It was really interesting. So this one was 10 seconds, and as clouds were trying to clear, I thought I could get this shot off. But was interesting here, because of the long exposure, right, the clouds kept moving. So it gave it this kind of blurred effect. And I thought, hey, that looks really cool. You know, that might be a screensaver for me. The other interesting thing I liked about this shot, so typically, right, when you take the eclipse, the exposures, you either underexpose and you get the shadow side, or you're underexposed, you get the bright side, you overexpose, you get the shadow side, right? Because of the clouds here, I was able to kind of get both. And it's like, wow, that usually doesn't happen. And then I think I got, whoops, one more here. So this one I really like too. Again, this one was a shorter exposure, so about 5 seconds on this one. Kind of the same cloud bank moving through. But this one turned out really nice. I liked it. You know, I got the shadow here on the clip side here on the top. We got outside of the shadow here on the bottom, a nice cloud coming through the middle, and kind of got some detail on both sides of it, which was unusual. I figured, I don't think I could repeat this shot if I tried, right? It just wouldn't happen. So I was like, hey, this is a pretty lucky catch here. Okay, a couple of salvaged pictures out of the night here. And that was my experience with the lunar eclipse from last month. That's it.
A couple of sets back where you could show the sequence.
Uh-huh.
That proves that the Earth is round.
Yep. Right. Because you have the curvature of the shadow, right? Yep. So anyone who thought otherwise?
Well, something else you can get from this too, it's like over 2,000 years ago, I think the Greeks, they figured out the size of the moon. Correct.
Yep.
They also attempted to figure out the diameter of the sun, how far away. They knew it was more than 10 Earth moon radii. It had to be more than, you know.
So there you go.
You know.
Yep. Any other questions?
Anything from the Q&A down there with questions?
What's the day and date?
It's beyond my skill set.
What was the date of the eclipse? Day and date. That was it.
That was
It's right there in the corner.
May 15th, apparently at 10:20.
Yeah, they don't look nearly as impressive on the screen there as they do on the computer screen. Yeah, this is much more intense and really cool looking. Okie doke. Thank you. Okay. Bernard, I promise you we'll get to you. Come on, there you go. Mr. Poppery, you're on deck.
Or I'm up.
On deck.
Up and running.
Okay, all right, so, let's see. Go back up. Okay, so what I wanted to do here was just give a really quick update on my trip through the Herschel 400 list. And talk a little bit about some of the SAC observing lists. And if you haven't been using those, or you're not really familiar with them, and I know a lot of people in the room have already plowed through each one of them about 5 times, but they have a really good benefit for observing. So what is the H400 list? If you're not familiar with it, the Herschel 400, it was a collection of deep sky objects, basically called out of various 18th and 19th century astronomical catalogs that have been put together. And the main focus of the objects were those that were cataloged by William Herschel in the late 1700s. So it's considered a lot of times the next step in an observing list after the Messier list of the 110 objects there. So these are usually considered some of the nicest and brightest prizes too, like this guy right here on the screen, 3521. When I first saw that in Leo, I thought to myself, how is this not in the Messier category? You know, it's actually better than some Messier objects, and it's not that far from M65 and the Leo triplet. You know? So it's kind of strange how some things like that happen, but there's some really nice objects out there. So this was first developed by members of the Ancient City Astronomy Club in St. Augustine, Florida in the 1980s, okay, in 1980. And it also forms the basis of the Astronomical League's Herschel 400 Club. And that's another group that, of course, has some fantastic objects that you might be looking for. SAC has its own published list, which is the one I've been using. And interestingly, it is called the Herschel 400 list. It's misspelled, but that's the way it is. That was originally compiled by AJ Crayon and Steve Coe many years ago. And that's available right on our webpage. You can download it and start using it as well. And the SAC list said that it was based off of the book called the Observe the Herschel Catalog, and try as I might, without a trip to the actual Library of Congress, I cannot find this book listed anywhere. So if anybody's familiar with it, you have a copy of it? You do? No. A book called the Observe the Herschel Catalog.
I did.
Yeah? Okay.
By the Astronomy of the Pacific or
Okay. Okay, very good. Because it's very hard to find now. So if you have a copy of that,
It's a little booklet.
put it in the next SAC raffle. Yeah, there you go. So, okay, so what instruments did I use as I went through this? And this is not something you need to set a timetable for, right? You're free to do these things as long as you want, which I've been doing. So I've been using everything from an old RV6 Dynascope, which was my original telescope bought way back in the 1970s. The largest one I use is an Orion 10-inch Newtonian. That was originally a push tube, which I don't like that type of scope all that much, and I got tired of it. So I just do the old star hopping kind of thing as well. But so I didn't have any specific date for starting that. And the main criteria for it was it had to be found in my observing logs. So if I had it detailed and noted in my observing logs from years ago, I counted it as working towards filling that out. So what were some of the milestones? My first documented object on the list was the Trifid Nebula, M20, way back in 1987. Okay, so that was one of my early observing logs. My 100th object was 3898 in Ursa Major, and that was in 2018. And by the way, I will tell you that my observing life, as it were, or the amount of observing that I've done has gone through the roof since I joined SAC, which last month I mentioned was like 10 years ago. Okay, so I joined SAC in 2012. It's 2022, which is a story even to itself. But anyway, you can see that from 1987 to 2018, I didn't have a whole lot of documented observing things. But then when I joined SAC in 22, I really had a lot more. So joining the club really helped me focus my observing as well. And the 200th object was in 2020, 157 in Cetus. And where I am now, my 300th object was just last year in May 2021, globular 6284 in Ophiuchus. Okay, and my last one was just this April in 2022, 3621 in Hydra. And this was done down at Karchner Caverns State Park, which is a great dark sky site. If you haven't been down to Karchner Caverns, I highly recommend it. It's a very good place to observe. The folks at Huachuca Astronomy Club sometimes has their star parties out there. If you read Sky and Telescope, one of their members is Ted Fort, and he contributes a really great place there. And then after looking at the beautiful heavens all night, you can go through the wonderful caverns underground. So if you like geology, they are fantastic. I certainly would recommend them as well. So total so far, 359 out of the 400. I've got 41 left to go. Like I said, I don't have a schedule. I hope to get these done within this year. A lot of it's seasonal, as you can guess. I have a bunch of them still in Sagittarius, so guess what time of year it is, right? But not only is it hot down here and monsoony, so I have to find a way to get up north and do some of that. But anyway, that's just kind of where I've been with this. And I will say that, like I said, the observing programs that are available out there, I'd really look into it if you're looking for a way to focus what you're looking at when you go out and stargaze. And of course, it's always great to hit the old favorites as well. That's it. Yeah.
The Herschel 2 catalog is in the SAC website.
The Herschel 2? Yes, you're correct. There's a Beyond the Herschel 400. And I know some of our members, Jack Jones got an award several years ago for getting like 2,500 objects or something like that. 1,000 objects. So
I think he's talking about two different, the beyond the Messier,
Yeah.
beyond the Herschels, beyond the NGCs.
right.
That is an award. And then, but the Herschel 2, he's talking is 400 more
Objects, yes.
which
right.
are really
Right.
big.
And one good thing about these observing lists, when you start getting into them, a lot of these objects overlap. So as soon as you start one list, you're actually working on about 6 others. So you might as well just keep track of all the other things. So yeah, good point. All right.
Thank you. Yeah, I've noticed that when I'm looking at some of the stuff down around 12th magnitude, because because of my poor eyesight. Who said that? What? Oh, you're all here. Wow. I use my Canon DSLR and I pull in a lot more light. Of course, it's just stepping into that little bit of crack cocaine astrophotography thing that some of you guys do. And I can really get 5 galaxies in one frame sometimes, just like you're talking. So, and I think it was Sky and Telescope last month, June edition, they were talking about the astrometry website. I went to that. Oh my gosh, that is so fun, because I'll take a lot of photographs and I keep a log, but when I go back home, sometimes my log doesn't jive with my camera, or at least well, that doesn't look like that. And so with this website, Astrometry, you no, you can't use RAW. That's right. Your JPEG file, and it'll plate match till it comes up with something. And most of the time, if you've goofed it up, you get a star. And I don't mean a gold star. You just say, oh, this is HD such and such. And it's like, well, the object that was supposed to be there. And I can see a whole bunch of other things there. And it's not noise from my camera. But anyway, I digress. Yes.
Astrometry.com I use to resynchronize my telescope without ever where I don't know where it's pointing. I've got cameras down at my remote control
Oh, okay.
website. And I just put it up somewhere, take a picture, and then use that. Tell me what center that picture is, and I set the coordinates, and the scope is now against the line.
Oh. Yeah, I've only been with the club for 5 years or so. So like Mike's been with 5. You were president, what, right after you joined?
Oh, they'll rook you in real
I
fast.
know. Wow. So you new members, remember, if you're going to join, you could be our president real quick. We do not discriminate on age or anything else. Okay, let's see here. Okie dokie. Okie dokie, that sounds good. It's not a fun experience, my fun way. Trying to see if. Okay. Well, now our guest speaker for the evening, and instead of taking a break and making our guest speaker suffer through our 15 to 20 minutes of yammering amongst ourselves, let's allow him to make his presentation, because I am really looking forward to this. For those of you that go to the forum or see the forum, you'll see some of these incredible astrophotographers amongst us. And one of them is tonight's guest speaker, Bernard Miller. And Bernard or Bernard?
Either one.
Sure?
Yeah.
What your mom say when you were in trouble?
Bernard.
Bernard.
Yeah.
But it's just some startlingly beautiful stuff that he does. And in one of his comments about one of the photographs, he was saying that, yeah, he will take the black and white Hubble palette photograph, and then he will manipulate it through all the Photoshop, different types of manipulation programs. And then what he presents in the RBG palette is just stunning stuff. And it's just, when you see the Hubble photographs online somewhere, and I'm not saying even amongst our groups or the astrophotographers who present within the forum, I'm saying in the news media, when you see them, Bernards are as good or better.
He's the best.
He is just startlingly good. And I don't want to make your head fat or anything, but I also want to give a good shout out to your wife. And I've mentioned this before. His wife actually is one of the evening DJs on KBOC, one of the stations I listen to when I'm out in the desert by myself, stargazing. So he's a double threat. Yeah. So I tell you what, Bernard, I will let you have the field here and see if you can get your screen up.
Yeah, let me. Everybody see that?
Yes, we got you.
Processing.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so again, I stumbled upon this a while back and realized that this Hubble data was all online. And so I went through there, and I just want to share my experience. I have a little presentation, and then I'm going to dive in, hopefully in real time, and you can see how I go about finding the data and then processing it. So here's the URL. If you just Google Hubble Legacy Archive, you'll get a link and take you to this page, and then you click enter site here, and it takes you to a place like this, and you can put in, like I just did, M51, and you get a whole bunch of data, and I usually sort by detector, and you can see the detector in this column here. And there's a ton of data for M51. You can see that there's 20 times 59, 59 pages. There's quite a few pictures. So how do you know what to do? Well, what I do is there's different detectors. There's the ACS Advanced Camera for Surveys, the WFPC2, which is the Wide Field Planetary Camera, and the WFC3, which is the Wide Field Camera 3. And the ACS, again, this was installed back in 2002. It's a wide field camera. You can see the field of view there, a couple hundred arc seconds, and plate scale of 0.05 arc seconds per pixel. A little bit there about the detector. There's CCD detectors. And this is kind of what you might see. Some of the images do have that little gap in it. As you can see back here, the detector does have a 90 pixel gap. So sometimes you get this little tiny gap when you see it. The wide field planetary camera, that actually is no longer in service. It operated from 94 to 2009 and it was replaced with the WFC3. And you can see some of the details there. And this is kind of what you'll see. It uses different detectors, but you might see something like this when you go and look at it. And I'll show you this interactively when we get there. And then WFC3 is, that was installed in May 2009. And field of view there, you can see 162 arc seconds on a side and 0.04 arc seconds per pixel on a plate scale. And you tend to get pictures like this again with that gap in the middle. So when I go about it, I look for objects that have filters close to the RGB wavelengths, and I'll show how you can find that out later. And then I just map the images in chromatic order. So I look at the shortest wavelength and give that to blue, and the middle wavelength and give it to green, and the longest and give it to red. And I'll show you how I do that here in a little bit. Some of the data sets only have two filters, two useful filters like red and blue. And so I haven't done this yet, but you know, you can play around with averaging or summing R&B filters to try and get a green, or you can just use the blue channel for both green and blue. Again, I haven't tried that, but I've heard that some people do this if you don't have three filters. When you go on, and I'll show you this later, you're going to get to a place where you want to download. So here's M51, and you're going to get this mess. And you can see here that, you know, this is the object M51. And then here's your detector, that ACS WFC, so the wide field camera. Here is the filter, and you can see the filter here, the F435 corresponds to the actually corresponds, I believe, to the wavelength, even though it's got an F that you might think it's the frequency. Then here's the file name, and then down here is where you would click to download it. And again, I'll show you how I do that. So let me stop sharing and get over and share. Where is it? There we go. So here's the site, and you click enter here. And it takes you to this, and you decide, well, I want to look for M51. So you put that in and you click search. And as I said, you get a whole ton of data here. And I usually click on detector right here, and it organizes it by detector. And you can do stuff like put a string in here like ACS/WFC and hit return, and then you get all those detectors there. Now, if you go up here, I'm on inventory, so this is like a text format. If I click on images, it's going to bring up the actual images. And then this is usually what I do, and you can see here that this has, you know, this 435, 555, 658, and 814. So it's got 4 filters. And so this is what I would do. If you click on these 4 filters and come up here and click where it says here, show selected rows. It's on mixed now. If I click only, it's going to show only the things I have selected. And then you come over here to more, and then you download data. And so I usually do the Fit Scientific. You click on that, And if you see on the bottom of the screen, it's going to download a 400 megabyte file. Okay, and that's how you download the data. And so now I've got 4 raw filters. Now these are calibrated and stacked, so you don't have to do anything like that. You just get the raw data. So once I have that, I will then go over to PixInsight, or you know, whatever, it doesn't have to be PixInsight, but it's what I use. And you can see I've downloaded the filters. And basically all I do is come up here to process, all processes, and do.
Okay, we're not
channel
seeing anything other than your face. You've not shared any.
Hold on. Let me get back here. Share. Here we go. Where is it? There we go. Now can you see it?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
So up here up top, I've got, you know, the raw data. You can see it here. If I double click, you can see the raw data. Oh, let me change this. So here's the raw data. Now, usually what I do is just come up here to do process, and I'll show you the 2 different things that I do. So when I do channel combination, you got to pick red, green, and blue. So for red, if I look at this, I don't know if you can see, but there's this 814 and 658, 555 and 435. So if I have this other website here that where to go here and share that, where I've got, oops, there we go. And this just gives you a, you know, a guideline. You can see here that, you know, here's the blue wavelengths, green, orange, and red. So using this as a guide, or you can find online, you know, what the wavelengths or frequencies are of the different red, green, and blue. So when I do it, I simply map. For red, now red, you have a choice. There's like 658 and 814. 814 is actually more like infrared. So there's 2 ways I do it. The first way, I'll select the 814, and I'll show you what I do. And then for green, you do the middle wavelength, which is 555. And then for blue, you do the 435, the shortest wavelength. And then you just click go. And you get something that looks like this. Well, it looks like a mess. So you unclick this channel thing here and redo it, and you get something that looks like that. So that's just the red, green, and blue. And then, so I look at that, and first thing I'm going to do is I just go through kind of the flow. So I would do a dynamic crop here just to get rid of that garbage on the side. Make this a little bigger. Okay. Now sometimes it's weird. That's kind of not really bad. It's a decent color. You got some blues there. Occasionally I'll go through and I'll do process, all processes, and I'll do color calibration. And I'll just pick a little section of sky over here and use that as my background reference. And I'll just apply this, and oops, okay. And that didn't really help at all. So, you know, in this case, that didn't really help. I didn't move the ball forward with that. So I'll go back to the way it was and take it from here. So sometimes, a couple of times I've had a result where if I did the color calibration, it helped. So sometimes it doesn't. I haven't figured out why. But anyway, this color here looks reasonable for now. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that. Oops, how do I get rid of this? So I'll come over here and just do something like dynamic background extraction. You don't always need this. I'll just generate that. I'd clean it up in the real world, but I'm just going to do it real quick here. So this just shows you the background that it found, and I don't know if that really helped, to be honest with you.
It did make it more dynamic all around.
It did.
Definitely,
so I don't like what it did in here, but I don't like it. Could have been that I didn't spend much time. I might have had too many. I'm gonna, in the real world, I'd play around with moving and getting rid of some of those things, and in the interest of brevity, well, let me see what happens here. So if I do this, there we go. That's a little better. So after you do the DBE, it kind of helped a little bit. And you can use your judgment, maybe you like the previous one. Oops. So you got that or that. So either way, I would then go through and take this and see what happens if I put this up here. Yeah, okay. So it's got that. And put that there. Lower this a bit. Okay, you got something like that. Now, one of the things I don't know if I do this in Photoshop, but I'll show you a technique I use. I come up here to script, utilities, and a thing called game. And what you can do is you can zoom in here. You could add this little oval. You can play around with it, but you can put this over the core. And I usually do a gradient mask and click OK. And it creates this gradient mask. And so you put the mask over here. And I usually I don't do the show mask. And I come here and click on this preview window here, real-time preview. And then if you click over here in this little square thing and then draw a box, it kind of zooms in. And then I'll take I've got that mask on it. And so I can pull this down and just reveal a little bit more detail, get rid of the real-time preview and apply that. And you just, I don't know, you can play around with it, but it brings out more detail there in the core. So after I do that, I generally, if you zoom into this thing, there's really not much noise. So I don't usually do this TVG denoise, which I normally would do, but I don't. So the next thing I do is curves, but I happen to know that this is probably going to be a little too much. So this just boosts the color. Brings out more color. You might do some color saturation, just a little bit. And then you have, kind of a decent RGB. Ooh, I know what I did wrong. Here. I need to remove the mask. I didn't think that made much difference. So if you go here, put that on there, that's gonna boost the colors. I don't know if you guys can see that. You went from that to that, so it just kind of boosted the color. And I don't know, I'll put a little color saturation on there. That might be a little too much, but you get the idea. Maybe I'll leave it now. I'll do color saturation and just bring this down a little bit so it's not quite as much.
Paul Lind has a question for you.
Sure, shoot.
Which camera was that? Did M51 fit all in one frame of the camera?
It fit all in one frame, yeah. It was the WFC 3, I believe. But they fit it all on one file. There was no there was no gap in the middle of this one.
Thanks.
And then sometimes I hit it with SCNR, but I don't really know if I need it for this, but I'll do it anyway because if it doesn't matter, it won't do anything. And so there I have a nice color picture. And then the last thing I do is I'll go to process, channel extraction, and I'll do this L lab mode and just extract the luminance channel out of this. And so this is my luminance channel, and here's my RGB channel, and I would output these as TIFF files and take these over into Photoshop and do my final processing. Now, the one thing I wanted to show you is, yeah, I mean, here's where I did it before, and you get something similar to what we just had. The other thing that I wanted to show you is, here is what we use. This is the, I believe this is the 814. Yeah, so this is what we used for red, but sometimes you might consider using this for red, okay, instead of the 814. Another thing I do is I will use this as my RGB, but then I will use this frame as an H alpha frame. And I'll then go and blend this into my RGB so that you have that H alpha blend in your galaxy. Now, the other option is to go back to channel combination. And if I go to my red channel and use the 658 instead of the 814, then I get something that looks like that. And now you can see those H alpha regions, right? Can you see those?
Oh, yeah.
And you would do something very similar to this. You could just stretch this. Oh, let me see. Looks weird. Let's see. There. Oh, this is oh. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to turn out super good.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I got a lot of green in there. Again, usually what I do is, hopefully I'll get rid of that green. I'll stretch it. Lower it. So yeah, that looks not quite like what I like. So I'll do curves. Sometimes I don't know, I might try the smoothing. Let's see what happens. Let's just do the curves here. And then the SCNR, I wonder if that'll take care of it.
That's Messier 51. It's,
So there's what you end up with when you get rid of all that red. But now you can see you've got these H2 regions that show up. So you can either do that, or sometimes, like I said, what I do is I take this and I take it into Photoshop, and I'll show you. Let me stop this, stop the sharing here. And I didn't bring up Photoshop, so.
and what type of files are these, fits? Or did you say they were?
Yeah, they're fits.
Okay, thank you.
Let me see if I can open. Should have probably done this beforehand. I forgot about RGB.
Bernard, you're not sharing it.
Okay, so let me get back and start sharing my screen. I just need to bring up Photoshop. I didn't have it running. So, what happened here? Where'd you guys go? Okay. So share. I'll say, okay, can you see that?
Yes, we've got it.
Yeah, so I've brought my 3 images. There's the HA channel, there's my RGB channel, and I'm sorry, here's what I'm using for an HA channel. Here's my RGB, and there's my my luminance. So one way that I put the HA in is I'll come here and do Control M and darken this up a bit. And then I'll just do Control A, Control C. I put this on top of the luminance and I put it in overlay mode. And then I double click here on this layer and I uncheck the blue and the green channel. And then I come up to Filter, Other, High Pass. And I start dragging this slider over until, I don't know if you're seeing it, but can you see the H alpha channel?
Yeah, starting to
start
burn in, yeah.
Right. And so that might be a little too much, but I can do that. And you can see the H alpha channels right come in when I do this. And I can click OK, and I mean, I might be able to do Control M here, and you know, up the high stuff. Keep this. Yeah, something like that. That might be a little too much, but I can always use my slider here to dial it up.
That is pretty stunning nonetheless.
Right about there. And then usually what I do is I hold down the Alt key and I click on this little square with a circle in it, and that hides everything. And then what I'll do is I'll come up and I'll get my brush and open bracket and close bracket. Open, make this bigger and smaller. And then I'll just come and you know, go along these dust lanes and bring out some of that H alpha.
Yeah.
You know, I'll play with it, bring in some of the H alpha down here. Usually along the dust lanes is where they kind of come out.
So are you highlighting what is there, or are you actually artificially?
Yeah, I'm writing, I'm using, if you look at this, I'm writing in white. So white reveals and black conceals.
Oh,
A
okay.
black mask, and I'm letting the H alpha through along these dust lanes. And, you know, I'll right click and select a mask, and then, you know, you can feather this just so it, you just want it nice and blurry. And then again, you can play around with this slider until you have the effect you want and blend some of that in. So that's kind of two ways. The other way is to just use that other channel, and your H alphas are kind of already in there, right? If you go back to that when I was in PixInsight, there's that one RGB that already has the H alpha in it. So you can decide which way you want to do it. But those are two different ways that I get the data in. And like I said, right here in the middle, I'll toggle this to black, and maybe I don't want that pink middle, so I'll make sure that that's not there. And then when I like it, I'll flatten it. And, you know, when I see something like this, I'll highlight this central core here. Shift F6 feathers it, say, you know, 50 pixels. And then Control H to get rid of those marching ants, and Control M to bring up the curves. And, oh, let me zoom in here a little bit. Control H, Control M. And now if I pull my curves down, too much. I don't know if it's showing up, but by just pulling those curves down, you see how it's kind of washed out the core there?
Yeah.
And by pulling the curves down, you just bring out more of that detail in the, you know, in here.
It kind of darkens around the central core.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you go here, there's just a lot of detail in this area that's washed out. And then when you pull the curves down, you see all these dust lanes, all this stuff comes in. And so that's a way that I mean, it just depends on what you want from your core. It's personal taste. I like seeing the detail. Other people like having a nice bright core, but it's up to you. I was right here with the magic wand, and then I did control, let me see, I did the magic wand feather, I feathered the magic wand, I did Control M. And then again, you just drag this down, maybe a little bit less, maybe you keep some of that, but bring, you know, it's personal taste. I kind of happen to like that a little bit. And so that's the process I'll go through. I'll take, you know, sometimes I'll do the same thing here with my luminance. And same thing, I'll just drag this down just to get rid of some of that glow and bring out the detail. Oops, I didn't do that. So, you know, I can, you know, you don't have to do a whole lot with these pictures that I would normally do, but if you do Control A, Control V, here's your luminance, set this into luminosity mode. And you can see here that the luminance helps bring out a little bit more detail. And you got the nice H2 regions in there. I'll like that, and I'll do or flatten image. Now here's a trick I do for sharpening things that I've always liked. So I drag this down to this plus area and make another copy. And I do image, adjustments, desaturate. And then I do filter, other, high pass. And then I'm going to make this about 10 pixels. Yeah, you see the fine detail? I don't know if that's showing up.
In the gray, no.
In the gray,
But
yeah.
on this, in the small side box, yes.
Yeah, so you play with this and see what you want. I usually do around 10 pixels, 5 or 10 pixels to pick out some of the fine detail. And then I do filter, noise, reduce noise, and click OK. And then up here for the mode, I pull down this menu and I select linear light. And you can see how much detail that brings out. It brings out way too much. So I usually pull my opacity down to about 30. So you go from that, which is not bad, to that, which is a lot better. Is that showing up on the video?
Actually, I couldn't see the difference.
From here, look in these dust lanes in the middle here.
Okay.
You see how much sharper they got?
Okay.
Let me see if I can blank it.
I'll take your word for it. Again, poor eyesight and
Can anybody else see that? I know sometimes on these Zoom meetings, but I'm seeing a noticeable sharpening of detail. Can you see it blinking?
no. I mean, I see your screen.
So there's the before. There's the after.
Okay, I see. It looks get a little wrinklier.
I mean, I'm zoomed way in.
Yeah.
Sharpening always looks, and again, if you don't like it, you can take this opacity down to maybe 20%, and it just makes it pop a little bit. Try this technique. Hopefully somebody was taking notes as you're recording this, but try this technique on some of your data. It does an amazing job of sharpening your image without bringing a lot of noise in. It does bring some in, so you got to watch your noise like with any sharpening, but it just really brings out some of that fine detail in your image. And it does do a number on your stars. So usually when I do this, I create a star mask first. And after I do the sharpening, I will, you can do select. Well, that's a whole nother thing, the star mask. But if you create a star mask and then put the star mask over it and basically hide the stars, you can sharpen the galaxy without killing your stars. Now, in this one, let me see. Yeah, it's a shame. If I could show it to you, if I was sitting right there, it just noticeably pops the detail. You can just see a ton more detail when you do this than when you don't do it. When you're zoomed out, it's not quite as noticeable, but when you zoom in, it goes from there. Again, this isn't a bad image. You're talking Hubble here, so it's still pretty darn
really
good. But it just really brings out detail in these dust lanes and some fine detail. So again, that's a trick I use. And then that's pretty much it. I think I did this one. And I share this and I go to home, gallery. Here I've got this Hubble site. And then here's what I came up with. This is the picture I eventually was able to get.
Wow. How long do you think you took doing this for this particular one you're showing us now?
With Hubble data, it's usually, an hour, maybe a little more.
Really? Wow.
If that, it's, the data is so freaking good to begin with that you almost have to work to screw it up. It's amazing to work with data. I mean, you just zoom in and these stars here are just little tiny pinpricks, and if I go back and look at my version, that's my M51.
That you shot?
Yeah, that's the one I shot. So that's my version of M51, and then you've got.
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I was happy with it, but I'm gonna say that this is better.
I know.
If you do quality per dollar spent, mine might be way better.
Exactly.
This costs you upwards of $1.5 billion, whereas mine is considerably less. So, but again, it just shows you. Let's see. There's a star. Can you see this little tiny pinprick here?
I can see it. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So if I go back to mine,
is that your plane wave you were showing?
Yeah, there's that
personal one or one you lease time on?
Pardon me?
Is that one you own or lease time on?
I own this one, and I sell time if you're ever interested. I do data subscriptions, so you can join my team, and whatever pictures I take, you get.
Well, now that I've seen how to do the Hubble, why would I bother with something like that?
Well, there's always that. There's always that. But these are some of the Hubble pictures I've processed. That's the the antenna? I believe that's the antenna galaxies.
Yeah, Paul has another question for you.
Yeah.
Could you summarize what you use for the hydrogen alpha image and then how you combine it into the red?
What was that?
Can you summarize
what you use for H alpha image and then how you brought it into the red? Because when I use Pix Insight, it's a very complicated system of combining H alpha.
Yeah, that's why I showed you that process I do in Photoshop. I don't do it in Pix Insight. I use Pix Insight to get my master luminance and my master RGB. And occasionally when I have galaxies, I'll get a master H alpha. And if I go back over to Pix Insight, you have to make a decision if you want to. There's two red wavelengths, okay? There's this one, which is 658 nanometer wavelength, and it is actually more of a red, but it does tend to look a little bit like what you would get with an H alpha exposure. And then there's this one, which is kind of almost an infrared. It's actually 858 if you look at it. It's a little bit beyond the visible red. So you can use this as your red. Oops, I didn't want to do that. You can use this as your red and this as your H alpha channel and blend it in like I showed you. Or you can use this, the 658, as your red channel. And you get something like this right here if you use the 814, and you get something more like this when you use the 658. Again, I didn't spend a lot of time on this, and the color's not quite where I'd like it, but you get the idea. You see how the H alpha is kind of almost in there already? Whereas this one, the H alpha is not there. You don't really see it. And so you blend it in using that one channel. So there's just two ways to go about it, whichever way you want to do. I tend to use this as my RGB. I use the 814, and then I use that other image as an H alpha channel and blend it in like I showed you. So there's no right or wrong way. It's just whichever one you think looks best. But yeah, there's ways to blend it in PixInsight, and I don't use those. It's been a while since I've used them, but I don't use them anymore because, well, especially for Galaxy. I mean, occasionally there's a script that I used to use for blending, you know, like narrowband, like SHO or HOO in PixInsight. That was not bad, but I just find that it's easier for me to take it into Photoshop, and I know how to work in Photoshop. So again, I don't do all my processing in PixInsight. I use it to get a master luminance and a master RGB, or a master HA, O3 and S2. And then I take those masters over to Photoshop and process there. But I mean, the basics are you get the raw data and then you create your RGB. Now, if you're someone that stays in Photoshop, you could just take this RGB image and do whatever you want to it in PixInsight. And I mean, this in and of itself is not a very bad image. I mean, I'd be pretty happy with that. But I tend to take this and then I extract a luminance, and I'll take the luminance and the RGB, and in my case, this channel that I call H alpha, and I'll take that over into Photoshop and blend it and get the result that I showed you. So, I mean, once you have your R, your G, and your B, then you simply do your color combination, or you know, your channel combination, or you blend those into a master RGB, and then from there you just process it. You could just process the RGB, but I like to extract the luminance and then do a little bit of processing on the luminance in Photoshop. And like I said, when I do that, I think I can just bring out you know, more detail. Here's NGC 602 that I was able to do. This is oh, I need to put a bigger version of that out there, but that's obviously M82. And here's NGC 1300. 1672. This is the Meat Hook Galaxy, but it's only the central part of it. This was the A-pod that I got out of this. This is the Stephan's Quintet. And so this was the A-pod on December 18th.
Unfortunately, we are we just happen to have a video issue here. Anybody in participant land able to see his video? Because we can't, even on my.
Let me try and make sure I'm sharing.
Oh, okay, there we go. Oh, wait a second. Okay, what am I?
And share. Did that come through?
I just. It's this. It's that. Yeah, but why would I lose it on this?
If we're looking for a video, I don't see it. I've got a still image.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
We just had something.
Yeah, it should be a still image of Stephan's Quintet.
Yes.
I don't have a clue either. it's what, yeah, it's weather thing.
So Tom, you lost it?
Yeah, we've lost our video, the Zoom video. I mean, it keeps popping in back and forth, and I'm not sure what we're doing wrong. We had a projector issue here. It just, now we're back up. And
So again, I went through the same process on this one.
okay, we got you back. Thank you.
This was Stefan's quintet. And again, this was the APOD on December 18th. And so again, you can see, let me see, Stefan's quintet. I mean, just the detail is unbelievable. I think. So here's my version of Stefan's quintet.
That's not cheap either. That's nice.
Yeah. It's
Like I say,
one.
for the dollar per
Yeah.
picture.
I mean, this is pretty.
I'd be happy with that.
Crop. It's a small little collection of galaxies, but again, you can just, you look at this, and this is a 17-inch scope. It's not a bad scope, but when you come here and compare it to this, it's just, it's fun to play with.
Even if your 17-inch scope was out in space, it still would be nice.
So, usually, you go to the Hubble Legacy, and I forget what I put in here. I forget what Stefan's quintet was. It's probably by, can't remember. What were some of the other ones that I had up there? Oh, 7318. So again, if I go to NGC 7318,
Down that way.
and click on that. So here, yeah. So right away, I've got 438, 606, 665, and 814. So same thing. I've got RGB. I just took these 4 frames here.
You don't want to bring your seats around here.
Okay. So I took these 4 frames, and that's how I got that picture. So that's all I do. I try and find an object, and I try and see if they have a decent set of frames, and I just pull down enough to get an RGB and process that to get a master RGB. I'll extract the luminance from that and take the RGB and the luminance over into Photoshop and post-process it there.
He's got the control.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Well, Bernard, I do appreciate the presentation, and I
hope
look
it was
forward
helpful.
to
I lost audio. Okay.
It was intimidating, at the least for those of us who are dabbling in the slightest bit of astrophotography, but a lot of the guys here that are into it, they're nodding their heads. Yeah.
I do have a YouTube channel, Bernard Miller Astrophotography, where I've got some videos of my processing technique. So you can go there. I've got a M51, my M51, from start to finish in PixInsight and Photoshop. It's like a 5-part full up processing session. So
Cool.
You might find that helpful. People can go and see what I do and maybe get some techniques out of it. It's like anything else. I'm always looking at other people's stuff because somebody, even after what is going on 12 years now, I've been doing this. Somebody somewhere comes up with something I've never seen before, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I'll try and work it into my flow.
Yeah, I'm trying not to get into this crack cocaine habit you guys have of astrophotography. It's just like, wow.
Well, it's
my wife doesn't see me much at all anyway. So.
Well, yeah, you got to let her know that it's a good way to keep from becoming an alcoholic when you retire. So there's something in it for her.
Except when you're first learning it.
Well, there's that, but, anyway, that, the Hubble, you can, I just go down there every now and then, like on some rainy days. I actually, during the monsoon, I might do this soon because, July and August are kind of lost months with my telescope. It's down in New Mexico and they get the same monsoons down there we do. So I don't get a lot of sky time in July and August. So I may go poke around, try and find one or two more.
Cool. Well, thank you
Yeah.
again. I
Well,
appreciate
you're welcome. Thanks a lot.
We'll stay in contact.
Okay, take care.
You bet. Okay. Okay, we're trying to get our screen back here. So I'm trying to find out why we.
I would have to restart that and then you would lose your sounds and it would just be.
Okay, well, for some reason, oh, here we go. There we go. Any closing thoughts, Mike, Rick, David?
Nothing here. That was fun.
That was interesting. He does some spectacular stuff. And the one thing that you can take home from this is that there's no set way they have to look. If you keep the shape that Hubble gives you, then you can make them any color you want to. Okay, maybe not.
Artistic license.
Yes, that's it. Editorial license. Okay, we're still fumbling with trying to get our video back here for some reason. I guess what we will do is if nobody else has any comments, anything they want to bring up. I did notice on the back of what was a Sky and Telescope that there is a star party in southern Arizona in September. What's the name of the park, Steve, that I sent you the email on? Yeah, it's down at the Biosphere. The park down there, they got 150 spots. I've already snagged one of them for me. Anything to get out? Wait, no, I've just lost my. Well,
Looking for telescope posts.
no, I mean, it's the, what's his name? David Levy, Dark Sky, All Arizona Star Party or something like that. And I guess we've lost most of the video. We're batting 1,000 here. So before things get worse, how about if we adjourn the meeting? All in favor? All opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all for coming and hang around if you want to. And okay, Steve, I seem to have. It's in September. This is weird. Okay, now.
Is it online?
Yeah, you can look. Shoot, Steve, I need you up here for a second. I got no cursor. I broke it. Where's the delete? Oh my goodness. Oh.